Welcome to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk all things hockey, interview players, and help new ones learn the game. If you want to learn something new about hockey, this is your show. Get ready, you're listening to the Adam Rothstein Hockey Podcast. Welcome in, everyone, to episode 8. We are talking about video games today. So, hockey video games have been around since the late 70s. You had the Magnavox Odyssey, you had the NES, you had Atari, you had Intellivision, the big players at the time. It's actually kind of incredible how all of this happened. So the Magnavox Odyssey technically had the first hockey game, but it was it was pixelated. It wasn't, or the Magnavox Odyssey 2 actually. It was pixelated. It wasn't really there. It was just, it was not good. And then when Intellivision came out, it was still pixelated and it was a little better with their hockey game, and Atari did one on their own, and it was it wasn't 5-on-5, it was really more of just one-on-one pond hockey, what you would do at the pond with terrible graphics, and that was interesting. There were many other hockey games throughout the early 80s. Nothing really compared to anything until you got to the Sega Master System and the Nintendo Entertainment System. Blades of Steel and Ice Hockey on the NES were probably, the most popular games at the time. And then you had Wayne Gretzky Hockey, but even still, and Bethesda actually worked on that game. Oddly enough, I have it here on Wikipedia. In 1990s, Slapshot came out for the Master System, and by then the Genesis was already there, and they were already signing pretty big names. Mario Lemieux actually had a game on the Genesis, but for whatever reason, Gretzky did not go with the Genesis, even with the better graphics. So that was interesting. You had NHL PA 93 on the Genesis, on both the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. That was pretty interesting. Then there was Hockey League Simulator on DOS and International Ice Hockey on Commodore. So it was also on the PC, or what we would consider that. Brett Hull Hockey on the Sega Genesis in 93. Any sports game on the Genesis that came out worked really well and was really fun to play. They're not going to be the most memorable games. They're not going to be the Sonics, or even, something like Strider, if you're really into this. It's not going to be like Sonic the Hedgehog, or anything like that. But yeah, NHL 96. Once NHL 90 or NHL All-Star Hockey 95 came out on the Genesis, it was standard that, we would get a new one every year, and then you had 96, Power Play 96, 98, and then it became updated on the rosters. The rosters updated every year, and it was pretty cool. NHL 2K on the Dreamcast came out on my birthday, February 9th, 2000, so I didn't get to play it. In fact, I didn't really know much about hockey at 6 years old. That was the day I turned 6 years old, oddly enough. But and Sega Sports was really good at what they did, and it's a shame that they're out of business. And there were some good things too. NHL 2K2 came out. That was the last Sega Sports hockey game really, or actually no, it was yeah, Sega was not really making sports games after that much, but ESPN video games, and then that ESPN NHL hockey took it up in 2003. EA Sports got the NHL 2004, and then you had Rivals, Backyard Hockey on the PC and the Game Boy Advance became, got more and more popular over the years. I'm not going in any particular order here, but there's that. Uh, I may come back to the 2000s and part of the 2010s. Let's see here. There was a Wii game. The Nintendo Wii did not have that much hockey, and I think that was part of like a really big issue for them, is that because they didn't have the controls of the traditional Xbox or PlayStation, that was, that did hurt them from getting more games onto their console in a way. So you had, oddly enough, you had the 2K games on there, which, but it was hard to program as well. And NHL Slapshot got on there with it, and it worked well enough for, the time. But I think, but if a kid had an Xbox or a PlayStation, they would just use that over, that plastic stick. It made no sense at the time for us. And it was still, and we still have now. In about a month, we have NHL 23 coming out on everything. You can get it on. It's not coming out on Nintendo, and I do think, and I don't understand why. Because it's just, yeah. I mean, it must be the controls again, and that is something Nintendo failed with when it came to that. So we got that. Yeah. So if you do want to play it, you can play it on the PS4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S. So the S and the X are two different platforms. Yeah. In college, I played one NHL game. It was not. It was fun, and I was oddly enough distracted. And we played some games during the time when we were supposed to be practicing in January. So it was a very, very busy. So it was a very interesting time. We would practice, go home, chill, and then we'd go out or something. It was fun. It was fun. So yeah, I mean, it was a good thing to, to just have that bond too. If you're a father, play with your kids too of this. I don't think it's a bad thing to play video games. It's a good way to, get your skill level up, especially when the rink is closed, and you can't just go to the rink every day, and you do need to simulate, where your players are in a way, and video games are just a cheap way to do that when you can't get everyone out to the rink, or it's still summer, or it's not quite fall yet and the ponds are not frozen. You can still get out, you can still get online on a PC or a PlayStation or Xbox and just play and just learn where everyone needs to be too, and just simulate this. It's actually kind of incredible too. And yes, I know some things are unrealistic, like a spinorama, like the way they pull that off, or setting the opposing defense on easy mode or something like that. Set it hard, challenge yourself. I recommend it. It definitely will do you good in the long run. Like make it nearly if you make it nearly impossible for yourself, and you can overcome that challenge, and then you know you have that mentality of, okay, here's how I do this in real life. I think you have to kind of like see it before you do it, and then you practice it, and then you get better too. So it's still kind of like puts your mind in focus, and I do think that it will certainly improve your confidence and as well. And even if you're and also if you're injured, it's also a good idea to keep your hockey IQ up as well. Now let's talk about online video games, online hockey, playing hockey video games online. Playing against a random person is actually kind of beneficial because you'll know what their strategy is, and you can expect, and you can train yourself to expect new things on the ice before you get on and to actually skate and train in real life. You can also chat with that person as well, and just ask, hey, how's it going, sort of thing. I do like that as well. And you can be anyone. You can get, the Blackhawks from 2010. You can be the 72 Bruins or whatever. Like, we have so many ways of how to do it, too. And in all these skating styles as well. The mechanics on everything is actually highly valuable of the turns and the chips of chipping it up and everything of the sort. It's fun. It's fun, and you learn those little bit of techniques. I think you do become a better hockey player. I've seen many hockey players who play NHL games just thrive as well, and it's not too expensive. You can modify your PC if you don't have a console to download the games, and you can download older games too, and just get them on your PC if you want to do that. But as well. So, yeah. I guess that'll do it for this episode. Okay, so since this was a shortened episode, I will do a YouTube video on cover art and just my thoughts on that. I'll go through a few games or 5-6 games and just talk about the cover for NHL 23 and hopefully. And you can subscribe to me over at Odyssey and YouTube as well. And please be sure to check out my Substack. I'll put the video there as well. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.